The question reads, relative simple functional forms of money demand were in use until the early 1970s, and these appeared to work reasonably well at explaining the demand for money. Discuss the reasons for the breakdown of the money demand function in the mid-1970s. Did you remember me talking about this? Yes, I talked about it, but not as an answer to the question. Okay, so how do you explain the reasons? So I'll just run them through again so that you can just get them. Yeah, the reasons that led to the breakdown of the money demand function. Then the other question, okay, we can answer that one, then we can go to the other one. Yeah, let's answer that one, then we go to the other one. Oh. Mm-hmm. You have seen the mind?
Yes, please.
The answer is in what caused the breakdown of the demand for money function. Okay. Yeah, those are the reasons. I talk about them. So just to remind us ourselves, we know that the money demand equation broke down in the early 1970s, somewhere there, because of what? The greater financial innovation. Okay. There was greater financial innovation. The financial innovation was a reaction to the following economic events. Number one, the oil shock of the 1970 and the resulting high inflation that caused the interest to increase substantially. When the interest rate increased, the opportunity cost of holding money increased. Because of the increase in the opportunity cost of holding money, the increase in the opportunity cost of holding money was so large that it became just worthwhile for cash managers to find more efficient ways of holding cash balances. And as a result, more wealth was put in interest-earning assets or in interest-bearing assets. Now, because we are aware that from the normal demand function, whenever you put money, whenever you supplied money according to the equation, because of the multiplier effect, money needed to increase with time. But because of these changes, innovation, you find that money started decreasing, okay? Because people started now getting their money, investing, okay? They are put by, how would I say, the interest rate. So we know that the more money people have, they are supposed to demand to hold more money. But again, the problem was now when it came here, it reached at this point, people started stopping holding money and they started doing what? They started saving the money. Okay. That would actually explain the concept of the missing money. Is that clear?
Yes, that's clear.
So at each level, you'd find that at each level of income and interest, the demand for money would just reduce. Okay. So the demand started reducing for holding money. This demand is for holding money. Started reducing and reducing. So that was now more like a paradox to what we had said at the beginning. We said when our income increases, then the demand to hold the money should increase, right? That is what we had said at first. But here it's just more like people observed a change after 1970s. At each level of income, just the money demand started reducing and reducing. And so this summarizes the concept of the missing part. What are some of the technical reasons that led to the breakdown? Misspecification, okay? The possible explanation of the negative results of 1970 is that the fact that a single equation of money demand function, that one, may be misspecified. An equation relating to real money balances, income, and interest rates may not represent a true money demand equation. Okay, so we may say that that might not represent the true money demand function. Instead, just the mixture of what? Both money demand and supply equations, especially if the money supply set by the authorities is dependent on the conditions of the economy, such as inflation and output. So we assume that, you know, in 2022, it's like that demand for money, that equation was not correctly specified. It didn't represent what it purported to represent. You get it?
Yes, please.
The other one is the change in the policy stance. So a change in the policy stance by the authorities was the case from 1979 to 1982. Find that the United States caused the reduced form of relationship to change, such as the, this actually can explain the breakdown of the estimated demand function, the changes in the policy stance. This one is more interesting now. The overly simplified econometrics is one of the reasons. All the years, up to somewhere 20 years ago, overly simplified econometrics was in use. And the issues such as number one, stationarity, spurious or no, spurious regression or integration were not addressed until only 20 years ago. All these years, people are researching, but they were not looking at the things such as, is the data stationary? That is for the time series data, of course. Do we have spurious regression? Okay, or integration, all those things were not being looked at. I like it when the monetary economics starts bringing econometrics. This is econometrics now. Stationarity tests. The tests that you use to test stationarity is called the unit root tests. Okay, you have learned it in advance now. Okay. It is actually the new approach to model estimation, where the first step is to conduct a stationarity test or the unit root test. It is done to determine whether the variables are derived from a non-stationary data generating process, such as a random walk, or it is coming from the opposite. Now, if the variables are stationary, they have a constant mean to which they revert periodically and have finite variance. Did you get that one?
Yes, please. Yes.
Yes. So what happens is that you check how the time series is. Okay, let me try to plot for you the time series data. Like you can plot the data y against the xi. You find it maybe moving like this. Okay, that's the data. This one is exhibiting some kind of a trend. Then you can have a data moving like this, straight. Then you can also have the other one that is moving like this. Okay. The other one that is moving like this. You understand, right?
Yes.
So the data, in short, is it can be stationary or non-stationary. So first of all, when you're dealing with time series data, if in your research you'll be using time series data, you have to check, is this data stationary or it is not stationary? If the data is stationary, it means that you have a constant mean. The mean will be the same throughout. And the variance shall be finite. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's only that we'll do that broad study conversation around time series data in econometrics, but that is what is there. Because of that problem, people would go on and regress the data that is moving, that is not stationary. You understand, right? Once you go on and regress the data that is not stationary, then the results that you get are poor and the interpretations are wrong. So that is people used to do before 20 years. They would proceed and they regress and they interpret. But the new development came in that you have to check if the data is stationary, how the variables are moving, right? And how the numbers are moving. Is that clear?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Spurious regression. The regressions were indicating non-existent relationship now. Now, these regressions were called spurious regressions. That is according to Granger and Newport of 1974. The regressions that indicated non-existing relationship. You get, you do some regression, but you find that there is non-existent relationship. Like the regressions that are showing you the relationship that doesn't exist. You understand? That's that's spurious regression. The spurious means fake, right? Not being what it
Okay.
purports to be. That's the meaning of spurious. So, for example, you regress, then you realize that there are some relationships that you see, but those are wrong relationships, right? In short, you just get fake results. Got it?
Yes.
Okay. So most economic variables included in the regressions were generated by random walks. We'll talk about the subject around random walk. There are two random walk. You can have a random walk with a drift, random walk without drift, all those things, the white noise, among others. It will be interesting. The random walks are changes in a variable that follows no discernible pattern. You understand, right? So the random walk are just changes in a variable that cannot exhibit a trend. And these variables are called non-stationary because they do not have a constant mean. You can't look at the pattern. See that the last day they increased, for example, by 20%. Now they reduce again, maybe by 60%. There they increase by 5%. You can't just see a trend. You get it, right? If they were increasing or they were reducing, no. It's just no trend, okay? So you say that the data or the variables are not stationary. Now, when you regress the variables against each other, it can lead to incorrect conclusions. So spurious regression problem can be avoided by ensuring that all the variables are stationary. That's why I said it is very important that before you regress, you check whether the data is what, or the variables are stationary. What could be the solution now to the spurious regressions? Now, it is cointegration, okay? Cointegration is a solution to spurious regression. It was innovated in 1987, introduced as a solution to non-stationarity. It was suggested that non-stationary variables can be combined to form a series that is stationary. And this cointegrating relationship removes non-stationarity. Any question?
No, I just need to go through this.
There is no question, sir. You can proceed. Okay. Question number 3. The demand for money is one of the most thorough researched topics in the field of economics. Outline the Bulmol Tobin transaction demand for money. I have not talked about it, but I'll take an opportunity to talk about it. So we want to talk about the Bulmol Tobin transaction demand for money, his theory about the demand for money. Okay. Remember, we have got the following theories. Maybe before I talk about Bulmol, it's important that I also comment on these boys, on this boy, Prof. John Maynard Keynes. Just to hear a little bit about his theories, I'll be fast, then we'll talk about Bulmol so that I can explain this lecture.
Okay.
He said that we have some key microeconomic determinants of the demand for money. And these would include, number 1, transactions, motives, precautionary, and the speculative motives. The transaction demand for money is essentially holding money to facilitate the buying of goods and services. Okay? That's for the transaction motive. For precautionary motive, money balances are simply holdings of money kept in case of emergencies. You're holding money or keeping money in case of what? Emergencies. Okay? Got that one? Hello?
Yes, please.
Okay. The speculative demand for money, this one considers money as an alternative to interest earning assets. So you find that due to capital loss that is involved in holding bonds, when the interest rates increase, so if an individual expects the interest rate to rise, then they will want to hold a larger quantity of money. So Keynes said that originally he assumed that individuals, they held expectations on the interest movement. So that is what is there. Any question on the 3 motives of holding money according to Keynes?
Maybe go. No, sir. Sorry. So this one is mainly concentrated on what? The Bulmol Tobin.
Okay. Yeah, like these are the theories about the demand for money. So that's why you should not just get, we have got about, is it 3 theories? You have got Keynes, he has got his theories about the demand for money. This is
Okay.
Tobin now. Tobin also has got the theory about the demand for money. I started from Keynes so that you understand. Keynes, he said people hold money for precautionary motive, for speculative motive, and for transaction motives, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, let's hear, according to Tobin, why people hold money. When we have time next time, we'll also look at it. We'll hear from Friedman as well. Why
Friedman?
people hold. Yes.
Okay.
Why people hold money. These are theories about money demand. So in short, we are answering the question, why do people hold money? In short, okay. What are some of the theories around money holding or demand for money? A combination of Bulmol of 1952 and the Tobin of 1956, these guys, they developed a theory of the transaction demand for money of an individual based around the existence of the brokerage fee that is incurred every time wealth is switched between assets. So they said that the main assets that we have is just money and the bonds. So the wealth can exist in money or bonds, right? That's according to them. You got it?
Yes.
They said that the expected return on bonds is calculated using the rate of return, which is the interest rate times the average bond holding over the period. So the expected return on a bond is actually the rate on a bond times the bonds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That is the return. So the cost of holding bond is the payment in brokerage fee, okay, times the number of switches between money and bonds. Each time you switch, like each time you want to convert the money into bonds, there is that fee that you pay, right? There is a
Yes.
brokerage fee. Yes. That is called the brokerage fee. Even you want, for example, you want to get shares, there is some percent that they charge. Yes. So it's around somewhere 10%. So you buy your shares, but 10% goes to the broker, right? For each purchase. So now the main aim of the individual is actually to determine the level of bond holding, which will minimize the returns from interest income, which will maximize the returns from the interest income and minimize the costs. Are you following, eh? So you are
Yes.
maximizing the returns and
Okay.
minimizing the cost, the brokerage cost. You can't just switch freely from cash to maybe to those assets. There is some cost to incur. So if you want a good return, you have to, minimize the cost and maximize the returns. Yeah.
Okay.
According to Tobin and his friend Baum, there is one problem that was there with the Keynes. We started with the Keynes, right?
Yes.
Keynes had some original ideas on the micro level demand for money. And the problem was that individuals held the expectations of the interest rate movement with certainty. And as a result, there was a step demand function where individuals either held money, they held no money, or long-term bonds. And so they held money and long-term bonds, or as little money as possible to cover to the transaction. So they held money and did no bonds. So there was that problem around again. Now these guys are, these theories were being developed on top of each other. Like when you observe, you study the theory of your friend, you detect the mistakes or the problems, then you develop your own.
Okay.
Okay, that's how they do.
So you
And
just
that is,
add on to what has already been there.
yes, and that is what research is all about. It's about
Okay.
testing the theories. It's just about testing theories. Let me just take opportunity to say So individuals, they found that the individuals, they would just decide maybe to own nothing or own all money or no money. So there was a problem because this is not exactly what Keynes said. So when you look at this did not explain the empirical regularity that people held their financial wealth in both the form of assets. You know, Keynes did not say that people hold money in both money, they hold their wealth in money and in bonds. He just said the interest and he kept quiet. That was another discovery. In 1958, Tobin considered that the problem of how much money to hold as one where individuals maximizing utility by choosing between assets and portfolios, somebody needed to choose. So money is assumed to have a zero rate of interest or zero rate of return and is considered riskless. There is no risk. But the variance of the return on money is then also zero. These are just some of the assumptions that were put forward. So you find that the bonds pay positive rate of return, but are risky. The bonds, they pay a positive rate of return. So it's like you are trading off, right? Should I hold the money? And I will not earn any interest. Or I should just buy bonds, right? But again, when you buy bonds are risky because there is a possibility of the capital to gain or to be lost. Okay?
Okay. Yes.
Now, so there are three classical models that show that money has a real effect, even if models with these are models with perfect flexibility, flexible prices. So you are required to discuss these three classical models. Three of them. Very, very important. I'll provide the notes for the models soon. Okay. So we have let me try to see if I can locate this document from here for the classical models. If it is located, even better. Okay. It has been located. All right.
These
So
ones.
yes.
These ones are your notes.
No, they're not there in your notes. I was trying to check. So I came up with them. I looked for them from somewhere else. I sourced them.
All right.
So we have a group of economists that are known as the classical economists that created the classical models of economics in the late 19th and 20th century. And these models are predicted on the notion that markets are self-regulating. That is to say, the forces of demand and supply will result in an equilibrium market. Okay. So like the markets, they clear themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
There should not be the government to intervene. And these are the economies that existed before 1936. Yes. The ideal competition, perfect information, and perfect price flexibility assumptions, they are the ones that defined the classical models. Now, despite of these presumptions, the classical models nonetheless acknowledge the value of money in the economy and its capacity to influence the level of prices. The three traditional models of money will be covered in this essay, and this is what we're going to do. Number one, the money quantity theory, a well-known one, right? The quantity theory of money. Remember that one? QM, so MV, PV, PY. Yeah.
Yes.
One of the most well-known traditional models of money is the quantity theory of money. Yeah. This is the quantity theory of money. You remember this one?
Yes.
Yeah. That's the one that we're talking about. Okay. So the economist, that is the economist Fisher, is the one who created the notion in the 19th century. He said that the principal, assumption of the quantity theory of money is that the level of prices and the money supply are negatively correlated. You got it?
Okay. No, it is. Sorry, come again. How
According
are
to
they
Fisher,
negatively correlated?
according to Fisher, he said
Mhm.
that the fundamental assumption is just an assumption. The assumption is that the quantity theory of money, the quantity theory of money is that the level of prices and the money supply are inversely correlated.
Okay.
An assumption. Okay. They are negatively correlated. Yeah. So the hypothesis is specifically the hypothesis or the proposition specifically contains that a rise in money supply will result in a rise in the general price level. Now, the price level effect of money is what is meant by this, the price level, okay? So the rate of change in the money supply will affect the rate of change in the overall price levels. So according to the hypothesis, the velocity of money effect is responsible for this. Remember we said the MV, right? MV is equal to PY, where velocity is the number of times that the money exchanges the hands, right? Moving from this person to that individual or that other. You got it?
Yes.
Yeah. So now, so the theory is just based on the quantity theory of money, in short. There is no need of suffering much. That is what the theory says. Then we also have the Keynesian one. You remember now, we had the classical one existed before 1936, before John. Now in the early 20th century, the economist John Maynard Keynes created the Keynesian model, okay? So the fundamental tenet of the Keynesian model is that variations in the money supply can have an impact on the amount of economic aggregate demand, right? The variations in the money supply, they have an impact on the amount of economic aggregate demand, okay? So what happens is that the concept specifically claims that a rise in money supply can result in a rise in the aggregate demand, which can then result in a rise in the overall prices. Are you seeing now, these are models that are different. You've seen how different they are from the previous one, the classical one.
Yes. Yes.
The previous one said that there is an inverse relationship, isn't it?
Yes.
Then with this one, we are saying that if you increase money supply, what will happen is that the aggregate demand, which is why we increase, then also the price levels will do what? We increase. That is according to John. John says that if you increase money supply, obviously inflation will increase. That's overall price levels. This model takes into account the impact of additional variables such as adjustments in interest rates and fiscal policy on the level of aggregate demand. Remember, fiscal policy, it's a policy that guides the revenue mobilization and the government expenditure, right?
Yes.
I talked about expansionary and restrictive fiscal policy. So in short, here we have who? We have another set of economists that we call the Keynesian economists. These, they believe in Keynes, in his theories. The fundamental belief is that here the government plays what? A pivotal role in bringing the markets into equilibrium or helping the markets to clear. According to John, the government should not just watch the economy and leave it to work on its own, right? You're following, right?
Yes, we are.
So according to John, the government should be there to participate and make adjustments that are necessary. So that is about that. Any question about the Keynesian theory?
So the Keynesian theory focuses on inflation and brought into
Money supply.
Money supply. Okay.
Yes. So actually, the only difference between this one and the classical guys is that the classical guys, they have no government. Okay, there is no government that is there into play. So as a result, the variable, the money, like you remember, the money is the variable that is outside the model. The government has power over it. So where we have no government to control money supply, then it is very difficult for money to influence other variables. You get it? When other variables are just, you can't use money to control other variables. That is in the classical. You understand, right?
Yes.
Then the Keynesian guys have come, they've said, no. Now there is another hand. Now there is the government into play that has power to adjust the money supply via the central bank. So we can use the money to influence other variables. You can see, we can use money to influence the aggregate demand, right? If you increase money supply, you increase money demand according to Keynes. Or you increase the aggregate demand, which is the Y, the GDP levels, right? Then at the same time, you can increase the prices when you increase money supply. This simply means if you don't want, look at the trade-off, right? Very interesting econ. If you look at money supply, if you increase the supply of money in circulation, as people are crying now, no, there is no money, we want money, right? We pump more money, central bank. What will happen? The prices will go up. Then the same people start complaining now. Money is there, but prices, inflation. Yet, I see. There is that. If you pump too much money in the economy, then money automatically will lose value because it will not be as scarce as possible. One, it will lose value. Then because of that, the prices will start going up because people can easily afford money. You understand, right? Then at the same time, you have to be careful. As you hoard, at the same time, if you supply too much money, you know what happens to the local currency? It is in too much supply, then it does what? It depreciates. It loses value.
How come the US dollar doesn't depreciate?
Like, how come doesn't the USD
The US
is
dollar, because it's like readily available, but the depreciation of the currency is still.
Thank you. It is the demand. The demand of the USD dollar is higher than Yeah, so even if they supply, the demand is almost higher than the what's this, the supply. You get it, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
The USD, because if you check most of the countries, there are few countries that don't trade using USD. Every time you just step outside the country, importing anything, you can trade using a dollar. You understand?
Yes.
Almost worldwide. So as a result, it's on high demand, in short. Because of its own demand, like it's very difficult for it to lose value. Even if it supplies itself, but it is on high demand, right?
Yes.
I was explaining this one last time to my boys and my boys and ladies. I tell them that young people, when you know that you have enough value, like the supply to some extent might not matter how much supply has been. Understand, eh? Because you are really much in demand. So you can be there, but you can't lose. But there is that time when you have not added as much value as possible, right? Then should you just be too much in supply, you lose even the little value that you have added. I was telling them that don't be too much in supply. Eh? Be a little bit scarce. Not you are all over, left, right, everywhere. No, no, no. I was just doing some commercial break with the little ones. So that's how
Okay.
it works. You got it?
Yes.
So that's how the USD dollar is happening. Yeah. So you find that okay. Let's talk about, for example, Zambian kwacha. Where else can you use Zambian kwacha apart from
No,
local?
it's
You
just here.
understand? Okay?
Yeah.
So that explains itself. Yeah. The demand is no, it's not sufficient because it's just demanded by the local people. You get it, eh? And there's some few people that come here to trade with us. Mhm. So if you just cross the borders, again, it goes down to the kwacha. That's a problem. All right.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
The third one is the model on monetary equilibrium. So I remember Marshall, Alfred Marshall, so came out with what is on a Marshalian, some Marshalian equation in mathematics or econ. If you remember the Marshalian one, right, in calculus, yeah. So Alfred Marshall, an economist, created the monetary equilibrium model in the late 19th century. The fundamental tenet of the model is that the amount of the economic activity, that is the level of the prices and the money supply, are all in equilibrium. You get it, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So in this
Yes.
one, that they are all in equilibrium. And according to the model, any adjustments to the money supply or the prices level will result in an adjustment to the amount of economic activity. So in particular, you can say a rise in money supply may cause an increase in economic activities, which might then raise the prices broadly. So the model also acknowledges that additional variables such as adjustment in interest rates, fiscal policy can impact the level of economic activity. Now, you see, this one, we are moving from the same quantity theory. If you check, like the quantity theory is still there, but it's just modified a bit by bit. Okay? Our beliefs and the theory around the quantity theory of money is what changes at each stage. Now, look at this. MV is equal to PY, right? Quantity theory. Here now, our belief is that the economic activities are just in equilibrium. Okay, we're saying that the economic activity, that is the prices, okay, and the money supply are all in equilibrium. No problem. Okay, but when these are in equilibrium, we know that we can use them to make some few adjustments. For example, when you increase money supply, then also the prices will increase. Now, the equilibrium point that we mean is that you can hold these two factors constant. We now assume that Y is fixed, the output is fixed, right? And the velocity of money is now fixed, is determined like from outside model, fixed. Okay, when you fix this, look at the way how these will move together. For you to balance this equation, when the money supply increases, even the prices should do what? Should increase, right? That is when the equation will balance, isn't it?
Yes, it has to balance.
It has to balance. If you reduce money supply, also the prices will reduce. Now the thing is that you have to be careful when you are controlling the economy, because you really involve a lot of variables. You will not just use the only money alone, according to this one now. Okay, you will not use money alone to make adjustments, and like money supply alone. You can also incorporate the fiscal policy. That is, if, for example, increase in government expenditure, reduce taxes, that will boost our aggregate output, right? We can reduce the interest rates to increase investments, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. All those variables have to be controlled. These are just some three models that I am trying to explain. Any question?
No, I think it's okay.
It is well. In summary, we can say the three traditional models of money shows that the existence of money affects the economy, even in the scenarios where the prices are completely flexible. So according to the quantity theory of money, a rise in money supply will result in what? In a rise in overall level of prices, right? But according to Keynes, a rise in money supply may result in a rise in aggregate demand, which may then result in the rise in what? Prices.
Prices.
According to the monetary equilibrium model, an adjustment in the money supply of prices will result in adjustment in the level of what? Economic activity, which may result in the rise again in inflation. These models show that even in the presence of total flexible prices, money has the real effect on the what? On the economy.